10,000 years before the opening of the Dark Portal and the first invasion of the Orcs, Azeroth suffered a different otherworldly invasion. The proud Night Elf Highborn, in their thirst for knowledge of the magical Well of Eternity, sent ripples of energy through the twisting nether. Regrettably, this drew the attention of the Dark Titan, Sargeras, who peered down at the hapless Azeroth, craving the powerful energies pouring from the Well of Eternity. He gathered his burning legion and convinced Queen Ashara and her Quel'Darai to open the way to Azeroth. The corruption of the Quel'Darai would lead to the War of the Ancients and the first invasion of the Burning Legion. And in any great war, there emerges heroes, villains, and everything in between.
I can feel your hatred. Now, feel the hatred of 10,000 years. You are not prepared.
Illidan Stormrage was always destined for greatness. Born with the golden eyes that the Quel'Darai believed were a sign of strong potential, much was expected of him from a young age. Like his twin brother, Malfurion Stormrage, he attempted to study the arts of the Druid from the demigod Cenarius, but found he did not have the aptitude for it. Curious, as later it would be discovered that his golden eyes actually spoke of a strong druidic potential. Instead, Illidan turned to the magic of the Highborn, the magic of the Well of Eternity. Illidan was welcomed into the Highborn ranks, serving as the personal spellcaster of Lord Kurtalis Ravencrest. When the demons began to pour through the portal in Ossuary, Illidan was convinced by Malfurion and their childhood friend, Tyrande Whisperwind, to leave the Highborn and join the Night Elves fighting back against the demons. He defeated the Doomguard Azzinoth and took up the demons' warglaves, and in the altered timeline he trained with the Kirin Tor mage Ronan, who was sent back in time through a temporal anomaly. The reasons for Illidan's eventual betrayal of the Defenders of Azeroth differ between the two timelines. In the original timeline, Illidan became distressed when he learned of Malfurion's plan to destroy the Well of Eternity and seal the portal through which the Burning Legion was entering Azeroth. The Well of Eternity was the source of his magic, the source of his power and immortality, which Illidan couldn't accept losing. He left the Defenders to betray their plan to Ashara and her Highborn. In the altered timeline, the timeline created with the presence of Crassus, Ronan, and Broxigar, Illidan betrays the Defenders of Azeroth for several reasons, all of which are exasperated by the mental manipulations of the Highborn-turned-satyr, Xavius. Illidan became jealous of Tyrande's affection for Malfurion, himself harboring feelings for their childhood friend. He became jealous of Ronan, who took his place as leader of the Moonguard, believing that he was being cast aside and not given the respect due of someone of his potential. And, lastly, he became enraptured with the promise for more power. The Burning Legion, specifically the spellcasting Eredar, wielded chaotic energies that Illidan craved for himself. Regardless of the timeline, Illidan's betrayal was not a complete betrayal in his own mind. In the altered timeline, he revealed to Sargeras his plan to steal for him the Dragon Soul, a powerful artifact created through the corruption of the old gods and the powers of the dragon aspects, to use in extending the portal. His true plan, however, is to use the Dragon Soul to destroy the Highborn and the portal and become a hero to his people. Sargeras burned out his eyes, replacing them with eyes that could see magical auras, and painted him with arcane tattoos as a reward for his service. Illidan's plan failed. Sargeras took the soul for himself, leaving Illidan empty-handed. Illidan, however, formed a backup plan, and took from the well 7 vials of its waters. He retreated to cast a spell using one of the vials, a spell that would close the portal in Sargeras' face and create a maelstrom to suck the remaining demons back into the twisting nether. The spell itself appeared to do nothing, and was in fact a manipulation by the old gods, planted in Illidan's brain, a spell to bring them one step closer to breaking free of their Titan-made prisons. The spell did, however, draw the attention of the demons, and it was his twin brother Malfurion who saved him, now wielding the Demon Soul, the renamed Dragon Soul. The brothers again fought the manipulations of the old gods, and used the Demon Soul to close the portal on top of Sargeras, supposedly killing the Titan. This resulted in the Sundering, the destruction of the Well of Eternity, and the creation of the Great Maelstrom. The Night Elves fled to Mount Hyjal to escape the Maelstrom's chaotic waters. Illidan found a lake there, and poured 3 of his vials into the lake. When the leaders of the surviving Kaldorei found him and accused him of attempting to continue the Well's tainted legacy, Illidan flew into a rage. He accused the Night Elves of not seeing his heroism, believing that the demons would return and that his actions would be the only way to stop them. He attacked the Night Elves, for which Malfurion was forced to order his arrest. Illidan was sentenced to imprisonment underground, where he remained under guard for 10,000 years. It would be Tyrande who freed Illidan from his prison, against the advice of Malfurion and those guarding the betrayer. With the Scourge invading Azeroth, a portent of the demonic invasion to come, Tyrande sought to use Illidan against the demons. Illidan, his love for Tyrande still strong, agreed to lend his aid and led a force into Felwood, hoping to prove to Malfurion that he holds no allegiance to the demons and their magics. It was there that Illidan encountered the Death Knight Arthas, and after a fight that neither could win, Arthas revealed to Illidan the source of Felwood's corruption, the Skull of Gul'dan. Destroying the skull would stop the wood's growing corruption, Arthas promised. Illidan left in search of the skull, his head now filled with ideas of the artifact's immense power. Upon finding the skull and confronting the Nathrezim Tichondrius, Illidan absorbed the powers of the Skull of Gul'dan. The skull gave Illidan immense strength, but at a cost. Illidan's body became twisted, half Night Elf, half demon. When he destroyed the demon's forces and returned to Tyrande and Malfurion, his old companions turned away from him, believing he traded his soul for power and banishing him from the Night Elves for good. And so Illidan left. Illidan was not left alone, however. After the Legion's defeat at Mount Hyjal, Illidan was visited by Kil'jaeden. Kil'jaeden, hoping to play two failed pawns against each other, promised Illidan unimaginable power if he sought out the Frozen Throne in Northrend and killed Ner'zhul, who had become too powerful for Kil'jaeden to control. Illidan accepted the task, but not without his own plan. With the spirit of Gul'dan whispering to him through the power of the skull, Illidan went in search of the Tome of Sargeras. He called the Naga from the depths of the sea, the distorted beings that were once the highborn of Zinashari. The Lady Vosh took command of the Naga that agreed to help Illidan in his venture, seeking revenge on those who had escaped the devastating effects of the Sundering. Illidan also found the help of a group of satyrs and furblogs, before heading to the port of Nendis to travel across the sea to the Broken Isles. Following Illidan, however, was his old prison warden, Maiev Shadowsong. 10,000 years ago, Illidan had nearly killed her brother when he attempted to recreate the Well of Eternity atop Mount Hyjal, and for 10,000 years she had carried a vendetta. She pursued Illidan as he sailed across the sea to the Broken Isles and his old home of Suramar, where the Tome of Sargeras sits. Illidan entered the tome and found within the Eye of Sargeras, the very artifact that Gul'dan had so fervently coveted. Illidan was able to use the eye to bring the tome down upon Maiev and her watchers. Maiev survived, and eventually Malfurion and Tyrande arrived to confront their old comrade once more. Illidan fled and began using the eye to destroy Icecrown, but was once again interrupted by Malfurion and Maiev, absent Tyrande. Maiev explained that Tyrande was killed, torn apart by the Scourge, distressing Illidan greatly. Kael'thas, a recent ally of the Night Elves, stepped forward and told the Stormrage brothers that Tyrande was instead swept down the river near which she fought. Malfurion and Illidan raced to save Tyrande from the undead Scourge. Though Tyrande was surprised and grateful to Illidan for saving her life, Malfurion asked Illidan to leave the Night Elves forever, a proposition that Illidan agreed to. Illidan fled to Outland, afraid that Kil'jaeden would come hunting him after his failure to destroy Icecrown. Maiev pursued, despite Tyrande's insistence that Illidan be left alone. Maiev eventually cornered and captured Illidan, but his imprisonment was short-lived. Kael'thas and Vosh came to the Night Elf's rescue, and pledged their support to Illidan. With the help of the Sin'dorei and the Naga, Illidan scoured Outland of demonic presence in the hopes that he could continue to hide from Kil'jaeden. He besieged the Black Temple and imprisoned Magtheridon within Hellfire Citadel, accepting the allegiance of Akama and his Broken in the process. No one hides from the Burning Legion. Kil'jaeden found Illidan, but gave him one final chance after Illidan convinced the demon that he was merely gathering his forces for an assault. Illidan, Kael'thas, and Vosh led their forces to Icecrown to kill Ner'zhul, but was instead met with the forces of Arthas and Anub'arak, the Nerubian. A titanic battle was fought, which resulted in the merging of Arthas and Ner'zhul into the new Lich King, and the wounding of Illidan. Illidan and his forces fled back to Outland, where Illidan declared himself the Lord of Outland, and began preparing for Kil'jaeden's inevitable return. In an attempt to strengthen his position, and perhaps at the suggestion of Kael'thas, who had secretly changed allegiances from Illidan to Kil'jaeden, Illidan ordered an assault on Shattrath and its Draenei inhabitants, led by Kael'thas himself. The plan failed, and resulted in a number of Blood Elves defecting and becoming the Scryers, serving under the Naaru. Shattrath, along with its allies from Azeroth, launched a counterattack on Illidan. During the war, Akama is revealed to be plotting against Illidan, seeking the freedom of his broken from Illidan's tyrannical rule. He frees Maiev from her imprisonment, and the two, along with the heroes of Azeroth, infiltrate the Black Temple and kill Illidan. After 10,000 years of heroism and villainy, the Twisted Night Elf meets his end. Until, that is, the way to an alternate timeline is opened, and an alternate Gul'dan finds himself on our Azeroth. After his death, Illidan's body disappeared, presumably taken by Maiev to the prison he had been held at for millennia. There, his body is found by this alternate Gul'dan, and taken. To what end Gul'dan plans to use Illidan, and whether Illidan will once again be an ally or a foe to the defenders of Azeroth, is left in question, but it is likely the betrayer will live once more.